Everyone, today we are going to discuss the concept 2.2 of Campbell's biology, in which we will study subatomic particles, atomic number, atomic mass, mass number, isotopes, radioactive tracers and radiometric dating. Okay, now and half of that concept we will study in the next lecture. So, okay. The concept says that an element properties depend on the structure of its atom. Okay, so an element's properties depend on the structure of its atoms. See, so what an atom is? What is an atom? An atom is the smallest unit of matter that still retains the property of an element, right? So if I say an atom is smallest unit of matter that still retains the properties of an element. Okay, actually each element is made up of certain types of elements, not elements, atoms. So if I say atom of one element, that is different from the atom of other element. Okay, and atoms are very small. Okay, second thing, if I say symbols, symbol of element and atom both are same. If I say atoms of carbon element, so element carbon also has symbol C, and even the single carbon atom also has the symbol C, and so element and the atoms of that element have same symbol. For example, C for carbon and C for the element of the carbon and both carbon atom. Okay, now if I say an atom is made up of subatomic particles. See, by using high energy collisions, physicists have produced many types of particles from the atom, but actually there are main three stable particles which are important. So an atom has three kind of particles here: neutrons, protons and electrons. Now if I say neutrons, the name says they are electrically neutral. Each proton has one unit of positive charge and each electron have one unit of negative charge. One unit positive, one unit negative. Okay. Now if I say proton and neutron, they are packed up together in the dense core called nucleus. Okay, so that's the atomic nucleus at the center of the atom. Now the nucleus will be positively charged because protons are positively charged. Neutrons are neutral. Now the electrons are moving around the nucleus. So if I say electrons, they make a cloud of negative charge around the nucleus. Clear? So the moving electrons electrons form a cloud of negative charge around the nucleus. And this is the attraction between this positive and negative charge, the opposite charges, that keeps the electrons in the vicinity of the nucleus. You know, positive and negative will be attracted toward each other, and neutrons, no charge. Okay, so the positively charged protons of the nucleus, towards them who will be attracted? Negatively charged neutrons. Okay, and plus attracted towards minus, minus attracted towards plus. Okay, there are many models for atom given, right? We can discuss these simple models, in which you can see here in the center there is nucleus. If I say helium, right? So in the center there will be two positively charged protons and neutral neutrons, right? And around them there will be cloud of moving electrons, negative charge, cloud of negative charge. Okay, you can see here, this is electron cloud model. Clear? Positively charged protons inside and neutrons there. So both in the nucleus, and cloud of negative charges there. Now, then one more model is there, in which electrons are shown in the circle around the nucleus. So this is a circle, and in that the electrons are there. Okay, in the helium there are two protons and two electrons. If an atom is electrically neutral, the number of protons and electrons are same. Okay, see, so which subatomic particle is positively charged? Proton. It has 1 unit of positive charge. Electron has 1 unit of negative charge. Neutron is neutral. Clear? Then if I say the weight of electron, the mass of electron is 1 by 2000 that of a proton or neutron. And how we calculate the masses of neutrons and protons in which unit? Dalton. Clear? So 1 Dalton or 1 U. What is U? Earlier it was called AMU, atomic mass unit. Now the word U, unified mass unit, is used. Now see, U is unified atomic mass unit. So what is U? Unified atomic mass unit is U. This is these days used, and Dalton is used. AMU word was used earlier, but these days also it can be used, right? It's not totally being thrown out. Okay. Now if you say, what is the value of 1 Dalton, right? So this is around 1.6605, like that. 1.66 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams, or if in kilograms, then 1.66 into 10 to the power minus 27 kilograms. Okay. Okay. Now if I say 1 atomic mass unit or 1 unified atomic mass unit or 1 Dalton, that is 1.6605 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. That is exactly the 1 by 12th of weight of one carbon atom. Now if I say the mass of proton and neutron. Then neutron is little heavier than proton. If I say neutron, this will be around 1.6749 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams, right? And proton 1.6726, I think, into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. Okay, whatever. Almost they are nearly equal to one unified mass unit, unified atomic mass unit, or 1 Dalton. So if I say, you don't need to remember each value here. Simply proton and neutron are almost similar, identical in mass. So in Campbell it's simply written 1.7 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. If you are doing take in kg, minus 27 kilograms, right? And it is nearly equal to 1 Dalton. It is close to 1 Dalton. It's not exactly 1 Dalton, right? It is close to 1 Dalton or atomic mass unit. For example, for proton it will be around 1.007 Dalton or AMU, and for neutron it will be around 1.008 Dalton or AMU. But leave everything aside and remember proton, neutron, 1 Dalton, similar masses, almost identical masses, right? And the weight of electron is negligible. It is around 1 by 2000 of that of a proton or neutron. So when we take the mass of total mass of an atom, we ignore the mass of electrons. Okay. Now let's discuss about atomic number, mass number, atomic mass. Okay. If I say what is atomic number? Nothing but the number of protons in the nuclei. Okay. And all the atoms of an element, all the atoms of any element will have same number of protons in the nucleus. So in the nuclei there will be same number of protons, and that is called the atomic number. Number of protons in the nucleus of an atom. Clear? If I say what is mass number, this is number of protons plus number of neutrons in the nucleus of an atom, but all the atoms of a particular element will not have same mass number. I'll tell you about isotopes. Clear? There are different isotopes of an element, and an element will have atoms of different types of isotopes. So the different forms of an element is isotope. Clear? And they will have different numbers of neutrons. Clear? But all the atoms of same type of isotope will be having same mass number. Clear? Now what is the number of neutrons? Simply mass number minus atomic numbers, and the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons in a neutral atom. Clear? Electrically neutral atom. Okay. Now if we give example of carbon 12, clear? Here you can see the atomic number is written as a subscript to the left side. Mass number is written as a superscript to the left side. So for carbon, 6 is the number of protons. So here you will write as subscript. 12 is the mass number of protons plus neutrons. So you will write as superscript. And definitely if someone asks how many electrons will be there, it is equal to number of protons, that is 6. Clear? And here you will write the atomic symbol for here carbon C. Understood? Now if I say for hydrogen don't have neutrons in general. Clear? There are isotopes which have neutrons, but if I say normally hydrogens, we will say 1 proton, 1 electron. Helium it has 2 protons. Okay, here what I said, 1 electron, 1 proton. For hydrogen, 1 proton, 1 proton. Clear? Because mass number is equal to number of protons plus neutrons, and hydrogen don't have neutrons. And if for hydrogen, number of protons and electrons are 1. Clear? For helium, 2 protons but 2 neutrons also. So 4 is the mass number. For sodium, if I say 11 is the atomic number, that is number of protons, and 23 is its mass number. So 12 neutrons. 12 neutrons. Understood? Now there is something called atomic mass. That I will tell you after we discuss isotopes. So what actually isotope is? See, different atomic forms of same element. These are different atomic forms of same element. All the atoms of an element will have same number of protons, but some forms can have more number of neutrons, different number of neutrons, right? If I say isotopes of carbon, there are 3 isotopes of carbon. So carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14. In carbon 12, there are 6 protons and 6 neutrons. In carbon 13, there are 7 neutrons. In carbon 14, there are 8 neutrons. But notice all of them have same number of protons. So they are the atoms of same element. But they have different number of neutrons. So they are isotopes. Clear? Here also you can see for hydrogen, this is protium, deuterium, tritium. Clear? 1 proton, 1 proton, 1 neutron, 1 proton, 2 neutrons. Clear? A 0 neutron, 1 neutron, 2 neutrons. So they are isotopes. Now if I say, what is atomic mass? See, for the element which is having more than one naturally occurring isotope, the atomic mass is average of all those isotopes. So this will be average of all the isotopes, and that is weighted by their abundance. Clear? So for carbon, the atomic mass is 12.01 Dalton. Here you can see carbon has most of the isotope of carbon, around 99% is carbon 12. Clear? And then remaining mostly it is carbon 13 and little is carbon 14. But together their mass, clear? That average will be, average of all these will be atomic mass for carbon, and so for carbon atomic mass will be 12.01 Dalton. Clear? This is the atomic mass of carbon. Okay. Now, there is a thing called stable and radioactive isotope. Stable isotope, radioactive isotope. Stable and radioactive isotopes. For carbon, carbon 12 and carbon 13 are stable, but carbon 14 is radioactive. What does this mean? Simply, the nuclei has a tendency to lose its subatomic particles by the process called decay. So nucleus in radioactive isotopes, the nucleus decay spontaneously. So it will give off particles and energy, giving off subatomic particles and energy, and this is known as radioactive decay. So it will lead to change in number of protons. For example, carbon 14. This will change into nitrogen 14 atom. This will change into a nitrogen, because when a neutron will decay into a proton. If I say carbon 14, carbon 14 has how many protons? 6. But how many neutrons? 8. Now, when its neutron decay into proton, then neutron number will decrease to 7 and it will decay into protons, so proton number will increase to 7. And you know, in nitrogen there are 7 number of protons and 7 number of neutrons. So the carbon 14 becomes nitrogen 14, because neutron decay into proton, and this is known as radioactive decay. Now we can use this radioactivity in medicine field also, as diagnostic tools in medical fields. See, the cells take up normal atoms, like that they take up radioactive atoms also. If I say you eat anything that is made up of molecules and they have carbon, clear? Plants who do photosynthesis and take carbon from the environment, and that carbon is used to build up carbohydrates and other things. Those molecules, right, we eat, so we also take up that carbon, and that carbon will be used by our cells after digestion and all that. We will use that carbon. So the cells will take radioactive isotopes also in the same way, and then that can be used as radioactive tracers. So we can use them as radioactive tracers. For example, someone has kidney disorder, so the doctors will give radioactive tracers. The atom will be tracked during metabolism, and then that radioactively labeled thing will pass into the blood and then excreted into the urine. So if the kidneys are normal, the excretion will be proper. If there is some problem in the kidney, the excretion will be affected, right? And then we can come to know there is problem in kidneys. Plus, radioactive tracers are also used in combination with PET scanners, positron emission tomography, PET scanners. That is very helpful for detecting cancers. So what is PET? Positron emission tomography. Positron emission tomography. What happens when the radioactively labeled thing is injected into the body? Clear? Then that goes into the blood, and actually in this radioactively labeled glucose is used. So it goes throughout the body, and the place where there is high metabolic activity, there bright yellow spot will come. Here you can see bright yellow spot will come like this. Clear? So that indicates cancerous tissue. High metabolic activity will be there. Understood? Okay, second thing, radioactive isotopes are also dangerous for life. You know the nuclear accidents and all. For example, Chernobyl. Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster of Ukraine. That one was very dangerous. I think 1971. Not 1971. I think 1986. April 1986, I think. That Chernobyl incident, right? Then 3 Mile Island, that disaster. Clear? So that's very dangerous. Anyways, the doses that is used in medical diagnosis are relatively safe. Okay, so nuclear accidents, they are also very dangerous things. Nuclear accidents, for example, 3 Mile Island disaster, then Chernobyl disaster. These are some examples. We will study them in detail later. Now I will also tell you another use of radioactivity, that is radiometric dating. To check the date of fossils, to how much they are old in dating. Clear? See, one thing is relative dating, in which the rocks or fossils of similar age which we know, with that the fossils which we have found, we compare the age. But that is relative dating, that's not much accurate. But radiometric dating, this is something better and accurate, much more accurate. What happens when a plant do photosynthesis? It takes carbon from the environment as carbon dioxide, and it will take carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14, all the isotopes, whatever isotopes are available during photosynthesis, and the plant will make up different molecules using that. The organism will also, whatever organisms, herbivore will eat plants, carnivore will eat herbivore. So finally each organism will be having all the isotopes of carbon 12, 13, 14. Now carbon 12 and 13 are stable, and carbon 14 is the one that will decay. Clear? So what happens when an organism is alive? That time carbon 14 will continue to decay to nitrogen 14, but that will be continuously replaced by the new carbon from the environment. The organism will eat new food, new carbon 14 will come. See, but when an organism die, it will stop taking new carbon 14 from the environment. Clear? Suppose we die, we will stop eating food, so we will not take new carbon 14. So we cannot replace the one that is already converted into nitrogen 14. Now carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14, all are present in our tissues. When we die, carbon 12, 13 will be stable. But what will decay? Carbon 14. It will decay into nitrogen. Clear? Now, from how much, if the scientists find some fossil, they will check that from the how much time this carbon 14 is decaying. Clear? Carbon 12 will remain the same because it is not radioactive. Carbon 13 will remain the same, it is not radioactive. But carbon 14, they will check that how much is left. How much is left, and then the scientist will check the ratio of carbon 14 to carbon 12. They will check from how long the fossil has been decaying. They will measure the ratio of carbon 14 to carbon 12. Clear? And they will compare it with the ratio present originally in the atmosphere. They will check the ratio in the fossil and they will compare it with ratio present originally in the atmosphere, and that will help them in calculating the age. Right. Now see, there is if I say parent isotope that decays into its daughter isotope at a fixed rate. If I say there is parent isotope and daughter isotope. Parent isotope and daughter isotope. Parent isotope is radioactive, and daughter isotope is stable. For carbon 14, which is a parent isotope, daughter isotope is nitrogen 14. For uranium 238, daughter isotope is lead 206. Clear? And when the parent isotope decay into daughter isotope, parent isotope decay into its daughter isotope, that is at a fixed rate, and this fixed rate is called half-life of the isotope. Half-life of the isotope, in which 50% of the parent isotope has decayed. Clear? The time that takes for 50% of the parent isotope to decay, that is half-life. Understood? And in radiometric dating, what scientists will do? They will measure the ratio of different isotopes and then calculate half-lives that have passed since organism was fossilized or rock was formed like that. Half-life can be from seconds or days or even many years. For uranium 238, it is 4.5 billion years. For carbon 14, it is 5,730 years. Clear? So uranium 238, 4.5 billion years, that is almost similar to the estimated age of Earth. Clear? In fact, uranium 238 was used to determine that the rocks on the moon are approximately 4.5 billion years old. Okay, this much was for today. Clear? And this radiometric dating and all we will study later in detail when we will study fossils and all, like graph in which see with time the parent isotope, if I say this is parent isotope, and here half-life. So when half-life goes on, here the parent isotopes, it will keep on decreasing. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye.